Well, for more on this historic visit, let's bring in Cardinal Vincent Nichols, the Archbishop of Westminster, and also joining us from London tonight, I'm absolutely delighted to say, we've got religious scholar and leader Maulana Ali Rizvi. Good to have you both. Cardinal, let me start with you, if I can. There are significant risks involved in this trip, not least those of security and indeed COVID. Why do you believe it's so important to the Pope to do this visit now?
Well, what he's said very clearly over the last few days is that, unlike the last papal visit planned for Iraq with St. John Paul II, he does not want this cancelled. And he's just said it is so important, the objectives of the visit, and he's going with the assurance of the Iraqi government that everything is in place. And he's determined, as he says, to make this act of love for the people of Iraq, for all the people, but maybe especially for the Christian community in Iraq.
You both know each other, I know, and as I understand it, Cardinal Nichols, you were in Iraq in 2015. You were set to go to Najaf with our other guest tonight, Maulana Ali Rizvi, and it's good to have you both on this show. Maulana Ali Rizvi, what does this papal visit mean?
I personally believe that this is a momentous and a historical event, and this will make the two each other. It will send a message of moderation, dialogue, and respect. It is going to cause the extremism and radicalism to be weakened. It is one of the most important events, as I have not come across in the past 1,000 years, that two such most powerful religious leaders are coming together in goodwill to make the communities become closer to each other.
How will he achieve what you have just suggested, getting communities to get closer to each other? He talked here in Abu Dhabi about human fraternity, about coexistence, and indeed signed the human fraternity document. How does he ensure that what was conceived here in Abu Dhabi actually gets action on the ground, sir?
Just the two largest and the two greatest leaders sitting together, showing respect to each other, visiting for the right agendas and no gains from it, because they have both reached the highest level of dignity and they've reached the highest level of their own religious command. So they have nothing to gain from it except for doing it for God's sake, doing it for the community's sake, for humanity's sake. And this sends out a very positive message to the entire world that more than 60% of the world's population, Christian and Muslims, approximately more than 4 billion people, should get the message that and in this difficult time, we need to support each other and be closer to each other rather than being fighting against each other.
The Christian community, Cardinal Nichols, go on, sir, absolutely, please.
No, I think I was going to follow what you were suggesting. I think what is very important for the Pope's visit now is, firstly, that he, as it were, embraces the Christian community in Iraq, and that he will do most dramatically in the north when he goes to Mosul and Karakosh, but also that he speaks up for the Christian community in Iraq. And I think he will do that on the first day of his visit when he meets the state officials. Sure, he'll talk the language of religious freedom and mutual respect and the dignity of each person. And I think the fact that, as Maulana says, that he stands side by side with Ayatollah al-Sistani will say to the Iraqi people, we live together in peace. And that's a tension that is in Iraq. From a Christian point of view, in a Muslim majority country, sometimes Christians can feel just tolerated. but this is the actual birthplace almost of the monotheism, and it's around that I think the two religious leaders will call for a deeper and more consistent mutual respect and cooperation on the ground. And I think the gesture, just the gesture from Ayatollah al-Sistani is very, very, very eloquent.
Mm. We were speaking to Ben Wiedemann, who is on the ground in Baghdad and has been following the build-up to this trip. And he filed a report tonight about just how difficult things are for the Christian community in Iraq. And they have been, of course, over the past period, particularly under ISIS. But for a period of time now, it is a dwindling Christian community. One assumes that the Pope will want to do more than just talk the talk. He will, one assumes, want to see sort of action on the ground to ensure that what he says is actionable in sort of, walking the walk at this point. What can be done, sir, to improve the lot of the Christian community in Iraq and around the region?
Yeah, well, I think, from my experience of being there a few years ago, when literally, 150,000 refugees turned up in Erbil, and the Christian communities worked together to welcome them. Now they're going back to the plains of Nineveh, to Karakosh and Mosul. And the Pope going to that cathedral in Karakosh, which is just being rebuilt, will be an enormously important thing. And I think it will help to cut through the remaining tensions of different power groups that exist still in northern Iraq and give solid presence and solid confidence to people to stay there. And I know the initiatives of the Christian community there are often focused on the provision of education, because if children have an education, then the families are likely to stay. And I hope this will strengthen the provision of that education on the ground, in those villages. And Archbishop Wardo, one of the local bishops there, is a great campaigner for this, and he'll have the full support of the Holy Father, I'm sure.
Last question to you, Maulana. As the Pope will spend a significant amount of time on the ground, we know what his schedule is, and we know what his message is. I was interested to hear from Ben Wiedemann tonight that there seems to be a sort of universal support across the board for this visit. These are difficult times. Does that surprise you?
We are going through a very difficult phase, but I think it is that initiative that he, besides all of the tensions and all the political difficulties with coronavirus, has still made an effort at his age to go to Iraq and Najaf and visit. Yes, it is very important for the Christian world, and I respect that very much, but I think it is more important for the humanity at this stage, where the greatest two leaders are coming together to give the message that, yes, we're going through a difficult phase in this world, but there is positivity ahead of us, and sending a very, even for the political world, I think it will be extremely important, and we will all be benefiting from his visit. And I respect him for taking this initiative.
Sure.
This is giving out a significant message for the moderation internationally.
And with that, we'll leave it there. An extraordinary trip. He has been advised by many not to make it, but he is making it. The Pope will be in Iraq soon. Thank you both for joining us this evening. We will be right back.